It's Romulan Ale o'clock on this week's
Initial Thoughts. Part 1. Initial Thoughts. Part 1. Initial Thoughts.
Hello again, Best of Trekkers! This week we've got the review of Lower Decks Season 4, Episode 5, Empathological Fallacies. We've got a ton of callbacks this week, as the Cerritos hosts 3 Betazoid babes, immediately calling back to Loxana Troy. The episode starts by picking them up from Angel 1, the female-dominated society previously seen in the TNG episode of the same name. Their oversized drink cups even have a little Angel 1 badge on them for fun. The first like of the episode goes to their animated attire. They're gorgeous and fit right in with what we know about Betazoid high society. We get a weird tidbit that Caitians used to hunt and eat Betazoids? That's dark, and I'm sure won't play into the plot later at all. During this revelation in sickbay, the medtech in the background has the cone-shaped device and others first seen in Voyager's Message in a Bottle. I have a dislike for comms in a blackout just because the Betazoids are on board. This really isn't explained well. They just happen to give these ladies a ride. Small nitpick, but a dislike just the same. But that plot device sets up the rest of the episode for the simple fact that T'Lyn can't send a message complaining about life on the Cerritos and wanting to go back to the Vulcan fleet, which brings out early onset Bandai syndrome like we saw it with Spock's dad, Sarek, in the TNG episode of the same name. But in another known empath disease, you think it's the Betazoids calling back to one of DS9's worst episodes, Fascination and Xanthi Fever, which the depiction in this episode more closely matches, as the crew gets wild and we go for a naked time kind of plot. And for all the times, including Fascination, this trope is played out through Trek, this one's pretty good, which leads me to a like. For in the background, during multiple scenes, there are 2 male crew members making out. I love how casual it is and just the LGBT moments throughout, as one of the Betazoids hits on Carol, which is where the whole thing winds up, them kidnapping Freeman and taking control of the bridge, which leads me to a dislike. There's a callback here to TOS's The Deadly Years, where Commodore Moron orders the Enterprise on the shortest course back to Starbase, and Sulu doesn't forcefully explain well enough that the course will take them through the neutral zone. But there's a couple of problems with this depiction. There's absolutely no reason to head towards the neutral zone on a course back to Betazoid, even though, in this instance, Carol does warn them to the best of her ability. The graphic used to illustrate the neutral zone itself is a callback to Balance of Terror. While all this is going on, Shax and his security team are conveniently sequestered away in part of the ship even Eager Bradward has never been to, so they can become important to the plot later. I've got a like for the episode having a general message about seeking support and feeling free to express yourself, as here in the security lounge we'll call it. They do slam poetry about Worf, eat bowls of chips, and do Malcolm Reed puzzles together. Also, there's a moment in the bar where Ransom opens up to his little buddy Stevens, and I like that it gives men permission to feel vulnerable. Good on you, Lower Decks, for weaving in some great practical help in an otherwise silly AF plot. Also in the security lounge, Boimler does Bajoran Tarot with Shax, and on these cards, we have the Celestial Temple, which is obviously the wormhole. On the Orbs card, we obviously have the Tears of the Prophets Bajoran Orbs, but also a Bentaka Spire like the Cisco recreated in Rapture. Derna is a Bajoran moon, which the Romulans maintained a medical base on during the Dominion War, and Kira threatened to start a war during a war with the Romulans in DS9's Shadows and Symbols. There's the Emissary card, which is probably the closest we'll ever get to the Cisco ever appearing on screen again. The Invasion is the 50-plus year Cardassian occupation of Bajor, and the ghostly Borja that Ro Laren brought up in TNG's The Next Phase, never to be mentioned again until now. When Freeman is finally able to hit Red Alert, Shax and team come to the bridge and with little more than an inconvenience deal with Charlie's Angels, working for the Betazoid Intelligence Service. Turns out they were affected along with everyone else by T'Lyn, and they've been on a mission to figure out what's going on with this season's big bad, which gives Freeman her first clue to what's likely coming for her ship. I would have liked to see a scene towards the end with this craft maybe destroying the Pack-Leads or something, but we can't win them all. I have 2 likes for the scene where Mariner and T'Lyn are locked in a room and help each other out. Particularly going back to my earlier like about opening up. Mariner calms T'Lyn by simply telling her talking about her problems is better than locking them away. The second like is for T'Lyn being Vulcan as a motherfucker, and being able to admit as much as she reflects on how she got here. A Vulcan using colorful metaphors is really fun, and in the end we drop the Betazoid ladies off at Ryza because why not? This makes me wonder if with all of the Lwaxana Troy's eccentricities, if that was all just cover for her as part of the BIA. Other random callbacks in the episode include Big Merp playing The Game from TNG's The Game. Boimler hopes he gets to do Sunkatse with Shax, which is a callback to Voyager's Sunkatse. Which, this is the 4th callback in this episode, where the title is the callback. There's also Billups in his undies doing Ambojitsu, previously seen in Lower Decks, originally introduced in TNG's The Icarus Factor. There are crew members that appear to be playing something with a board that looks like the Enterprise D, similar to the real-life interactive VHS game. And the security team does an Enterprise Malcolm Reed puzzle, which I have no experience of putting together a large Trek puzzle or anything. Speaking of Trek cats, I've got one final like for T'Ana as she gets all crazed and chases her tail as she goes hunting the Betazoids. Though I wish that had paid off a little more, even if I also think the line about pacifying her with warm milk is also hilarious. What happened to this guy? Did he eat someone? And seriously, Miggly Moo, the entire episode destroying the replicator? If you've enjoyed this review, please consider a like and subscribe below. And come chat with me and my friends on the weekly live show Buffer Time, Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern, here on this channel. We'll be talking about this episode and the very short trek Holograms All the Way Down. Till next week, I've been your host, Dustin Wing.